Hello, busy dads and busy people everywhere. If you are new to this channel, a very warm welcome to you. This is the channel all about the Busy Dad program. The Busy Dad program is the remarkably simple, effective and enjoyable training protocol that I've been following for the past 18 months since my daughter was born. It only requires a weekly buy-in of just 80 minutes and it can get you into incredible physical condition. Now, as I've emphasized in previous videos, the Busy Dad program is a training protocol, not a nutritional protocol. However, many of you have asked me to share my own approach to nutrition, and I'm very happy to do that, provided that you understand that the tips and tricks that I'm sharing are merely perspectives that I've picked up on my own nutritional journey and do not in any way comprise medical advice or prescriptions. You might have noticed that I'm speaking rather quietly today, more subdued than usual. That's because, as you can see, I'm on a train and I want to be respectful to my fellow passengers. I'm currently en route to the wedding of a dear friend, having to spend a day away from my beloved daughter and wife, which is no easy thing to do. In any case, in previous videos, we've talked about intermittent fasting, we've talked about the importance of calorie consciousness, we've talked about strategic caffeine consumption, and I've also talked about some of the principles that I follow when I'm selecting where to get my calories from. Last week we talked about the importance of gut health and the correlation between gut health and metabolic health, which is in the background of my choice to eat a diet that's very rich in whole foods and plants, as well as complex carbohydrates such as whole grains, as well as legumes. In today's video I want to talk about another principle that I follow when I'm deciding where to get my calories from. Okay. And that principle is the principle that you should find foods that are nutritionally dense but calorically poor. Okay, this principle has been incredibly helpful to me. So first of all, let's just begin by explaining what you mean. Okay, so the nutrient density of a given food can be understood in terms of how many micronutrients and macronutrients that food contains relative to its weight, whereas the caloric density of a food can be understood as how many calories it contains relative to its weight. Now, the caloric density of a food will be determined by its macronutrient makeup, okay, because we know that fat per gram contains more calories, double the number of calories, than either proteins or carbohydrates, the other two main macronutrients. So if you have a food source that's primarily made up of fat, okay, that food is going to be very calorically dense relative to a food source that's primarily made up of proteins or carbohydrates. Okay, so a classic example would be olive oil, which consists pretty much entirely of fat. Okay, that's going to be a very calorically dense food source compared to something like a potato, which doesn't contain any fat at all, or like, say, a piece of lean meat, which doesn't contain any fat. Okay, so just to make that concrete, 2 tablespoons of olive oil contain about 250 calories, whereas in contrast, an enormous potato, like a really, really big potato, also contains around 250 calories. So these are foods that have different caloric densities. Given that 2 tablespoons of olive oil weighs considerably less than 1 potato, okay, it follows that, and yet they have the same caloric content, it follows that olive oil is a more calorically dense food than potato. Whereas the nutrient density of a food is determined by how rich its nutrient content is. And what I try to do when I'm deciding where to get my food from is pick foods that are calorically poor, okay, that are not calorically dense, but that are nutritionally rich. Okay. And that points me towards foods like plants, fruits, vegetables, complex carbohydrates, also foods like potatoes. I mean, a potato is an incredible food. It's a pretty good source of dietary fiber, especially through the skin. It has ridiculous amounts of potassium, vitamin B, vitamin C, and other antioxidants, all kinds of amazing, life-giving, healthy nutrient content. But it's calorically very poor. If you've tried eating 1,000 calories worth of potatoes, okay, it's hard to do. As I said, one comically large potato it has about 250 calories. Okay, so let's make this graphic. Okay, I'm breaking my fast and I'm deciding where to get my calories from. I can have a very fat-rich food. I can make myself a bowl of chia pudding. A halfway decent size of chia pudding is going to have about 600 calories, okay, from those chia seeds and the coconut milk that I've used to fatten up the chia seeds in the fridge overnight. Or I could have a massive roast potato, an entire can of chickpeas, and half a bag of kale, and I would also hit around 600 calories. Now, which plate of food is going to be more fun to eat? The plate of food that's gone in 5 mouthfuls, or the plate of food that looks like a mountain that I have to kind of work my way through and that I'm going to feel really full from afterwards? It's really clear to me that the most enjoyable way of getting my 2,500 calories each day, and the easiest way of not feeling claustrophobic within my calorie restrictions, is to choose foods that are calorically poor but nutritionally rich. Okay, and again, this principle points in the same direction as the principle of gut health. It points back to leafy greens. Okay, kale is hilarious how calorically poor compared to how nutritionally rich kale is. Okay, so kale, vegetables, legumes, complex carbohydrates, potatoes. In general, I'm very sparing with my use of dietary fats. Okay, I'll eat a little bit of avocado, a little bit of olive oil, or a small amount of, say, peanut butter on any given day. But really, fat is only getting me a very, very small proportion of my calories, maybe 5% of my calories. The rest of my calories are coming from carbohydrates and from proteins, and they're specifically coming from foods that are nutritionally rich but calorically poor. And I find that when I first started calorie counting, I felt very claustrophobic trying to stick to my 2,500 calories each day. Get to the end, count every calorie out, and still feel like I wanted more food. When I've started following this approach, where I can just have a mountain of food for only 500 calories, there are days when I have trouble finishing the amount of food that I have to eat. And so the key to success with both intermittent fasting and calorie counting, if like me you're a person with a massive appetite, is to pick foods that, just to say it one more time, are calorically poor but nutritionally rich. So start trying that out for yourself, my friends. And apologies for today's slightly unconventional video. I will leave you with some footage of the English countryside. Until next time.